Here, okay.
Okay, welcome to our meeting. We are starting at 7. Oh, I need to wait another minute. 7:29. The clock is wrong. Do we start anyway? Okay, we're going to start the meeting. We're going to say the pledge and then we will go into the session. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Trustee White?
Present.
Trustee Quesada?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lopez?
Present.
And Mayor Levin?
Present. How are we doing with Bob?
I'm here.
No, I
Bob.
know you are. I mean for attendance.
And Bob?
I'm
And,
here, right?
Trustee Ritchie?
Yeah, we saw you, but I think, because he's not feeling well, so he's allowed to go in through Zoom. Okay, great. All right, well, welcome everybody. Plenty of seats in the front for the folks that are coming in. Officers as well. Or you can stand in the back. It's up to you. Welcome everybody. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're starting with announcements. Am I right? Anybody announcements?
No,
Oh, we're doing the appointment first? Well, if somebody knows what's going on. Excellent. Well, we
Okay.
have, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
What?
I was gonna do the resolution.
Okay. So, wanted to just say that, a celebratory event, this week, more to come next Wednesday. We have had our Chief of Police, Kevin Sylvester, who retired, at the end of last year. The board has spent, probably 2 to 3 months going through a, process of interviewing stakeholders, nonprofits, individuals, police officers, volunteers, and then ourselves. We sat and had many conversations about choosing the next chief of police as we go to the next chapter. We're very fortunate, Austining. We've had very long-standing chiefs of police. There were 2 internal candidates eligible for the position, and the board made a decision to promote Aaron Zimmerman to chief of police. He's here with us tonight. The resolution, just a little explanation, the resolution that we're going to hear is to appoint him to the position of chief of police, and it'll be explained. Next week, for those that want to come, will be the swearing in ceremony. I'm sorry, as I told you, I won't be here. I actually am having surgery done in the morning of that day, but we didn't want to stop the moment. We're going to celebrate the moment. And I'm sure that my colleagues are all going to be great and step up. Deputy Mayor, I'm sure, is already working on a valuable and beautiful speech for the evening. And the public's invited, obviously, all the police officers, but families, whatever. It's a big moment, both for the person who becomes chief, but really as we go into the next chapter. So, you ready?
Mm-hmm. Provisional appointment of Aaron Zimmerman as Chief of Police. Resolved that the Board of Trustee hereby provisionally appoints Aaron Zimmerman, as the position of Chief of Police effective March 7th, 2024, at an annual salary of $215,250. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Step this way. People in the back can't see you. You can step up because your guys back here and ladies can't see you. So congratulations.
You have to speak into a mic, so
Yeah, the folks on Zoom
can't hear you.
need to hear you.
Oh.
Get used to it.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. Thank you, community. Thank you, guys. Truly an honor to be put in this position. I won't let you down. I promise that. And thank you for next week the opportunity to have a little bit more of a ceremonious, onboarding. But looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Great things to come. Thank you.
Thank you. So I wanted you to have your appropriate moment, but I do, on behalf of the board, the entire staff and the community, want to thank Captain Donahue for the amazing job that he's done. We have a captain who is the high ranking and was made interim chief, did an amazing job, not easy to step into anybody's shoes. And we really want to thank the captain for all that he has done for this community while he was in that service as well. We're ready to go.
All right, our first item is a public hearing on the matter of local law 224 entitled Local Law Amending Chapter 226 Special Events, Parades, and Public Gatherings for the Village of Ossining Code. Now, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to call the first person on my list, Reverend Alvin Rivera. Please remember, do we have time?
Yeah, we have to time it because how many people are on the list?
No, it's just Father Alvin is speaking for the Alvin.
Nobody else signed that list?
No, we have 4 people.
4 people did. The time, I'm sorry? It's, yeah, so it's 3 minutes it's 3 minutes per speaker. Come on in. Come on in. Chairs in the front. You want? Please join us. Great. Okay, thank you. They're going to give you a little head notice. Is the mic not on, sir? Okay. Good evening, Father.
Good evening. I'm starting.
You're on.
All right. Good evening. And congratulations to now our new Chief Zimmerman. And thanks for having us here. And also I just want to extend welcome. Saludos a todos de Santa Ana. Hola, hola. I was originally just gonna come myself, but then thankfully I got good advice, and this was literally one WhatsApp voice message that I sent out like 40 minutes ago, and thank God that they all showed up, and all the more that I represent. I just want to first explain that St. Anne's, we're very fortunate that we're a very large community of over 3,000 people that attend Mass every weekend. It's something we have to count it for the archdiocese, so that's actually a proven number that we count, and we feed over 5,000 people every month, really every week. We're at over 600 something families, 653 I think was the last count last weekend through our food pantry. And our Lord left us a double mission, which is proclaim the gospel and also feed the poor and the hungry, and that's what we do, and that's what this special events law would really hinder us in doing with exceeding prohibitive costs. And also, I would be honest, feels pretty targeted, especially with the Sunday, trying to cancel Sunday events that would require village presence. So be it our larger processions, which are fulfilling the proclaiming the gospel, that would cost an enormously a large amount of money, with the hundreds of dollars per police officer per hour, which just seems way too much. And also with our festival, based on the wording, how I see it, we wouldn't be able to have our Sunday date in the festival, which seems completely unreasonable to me, that we wouldn't be able to have.
Hold on.
And also, I'll be happy to hear your clarification on that point. But also, just in general, the village is meant to really help us and facilitate us in our First Amendment right and in our great expression of our faith and the work that we do, and support that. And this would just be very prohibitive of that. And it seems that you're hindering us as opposed to helping us. And the police, I know with Chief Sylvester, and I'm sure it's the same with Chief Zimmerman, was always very supportive of us with our processions and everything, and helpful and present there to walk with us and help open the path, if you will. And it just feels like that's not the case anymore. That the sentiment now, as I've expressed through phone calls and I've expressed in other times, the sentiment now is that we shouldn't have any of these things. The Austrians should just be like quiet and nothing goes on, and there's nothing, no even religious freedom in that sense. And I just feel that this law, that's just what that seems like. That's what the numbers show, and that's what the sentiment of everyone that's here is. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you. Before I reply to that, there were 4 people on the list.
I don't know if they all are speaking on.
So are you
Okay.
all speaking with the church, or are you speaking for different groups? This event is not about the church. It's not about any organization. It is a policy for the entire municipality for all 200 plus nonprofits, of which 20 of them are houses of faith. The rest are not. They're all a policy for the entire communities. Now, are you going to be speaking about church? Because if you're not, I'm going to answer some of that and clarify
Sure.
before we have any. It's a public hearing. It's not actually a conversation, but we're willing to answer and clarify. Are you with a church or are you separate? Okay, so do you mind if we finish with one? Otherwise, what we normally do, in fairness and from an equitable point of view, no organization gets more than other organizations, right? So if you're okay with it, okay. And anybody else here to speak about this piece in the public hearing? Because everybody gets treated equitably.
So the people on the list are Gina, Caroline, and Anna. Anna?
And are you for your organization or are you here for the church? Okay, so let's answer because I want to clarify some things and then we're going to move on. Like I said, this policy is for all of not only nonprofits, but for-profits and anybody else that comes into the village, whether they're located here or not. It's a policy that's been in place. It's a policy that is this is an update to an long existing policy. Now, to clarify, because I heard some things which I can clarify, but I'm going to let you clarify a few of the points and then we can have anybody else who wants to clarify.
Sure. I just want to say that the stipulation for the prohibition of Sunday events really, we have a lot of different types of events. We want to support those events. Every event that we do, once it becomes a significant size or it's on a public square, involves compromises that we must make with other residents. As much as most people love our events, not everybody loves them equally. So we have to make sure when we do events, it's not on village-owned property. The property is owned by the residents of Ossing. It's a taxpayer's property. So I just want to caveat that's the reason for the policy. Our policy is very similar to policies in other municipalities. This is not an Ossing specific initiative. Sundays, the prohibition of Sundays events really wouldn't apply to St. Anne's Festival. Again, St. Anne's Festival is somewhat of an anomaly in the sense that it's a 5-day festival that is run on your property, where we are talking about it's more challenging when we need to have public works parks out on a Sunday. None of those people work on Sunday. Police work every day. None of our park staff and our sanitation staff, predominantly, they don't really work on Sunday. So if we have to do an event, typically we need those departments out. That's triple time. So we would like to avoid that. And that's why the board had thought deterring Sunday events that would not apply to St. Anne's.
So can I respond?
No, not yet. So I just want to be very clear in case others did not hear it on Zoom. So your comment that it applies to the Sunday event, actually, that's not how this works. I mean, that's just a clarification. There was a thing about the police fees. It does cost more than $100 a police officer. It doesn't matter what they take home between their overtime and their pay. It is a blended cost and it is well over $100 an hour between all the staff. And plus it takes them away from the rest of the community and what they're doing. So the price that came up actually is a fair price from the board's opinion. People can think that's a lot of money. People could think that police officers get paid a lot, or they might think they don't get paid a lot. It's not a guessing game. As you saw in what we just did with the chief of police, it's public information. Their salaries and then their overtimes are all recorded. It's very easy to look it up. The blended cost of the involvement of all the people seems to be not only in our municipality, but a fair price, because you had mentioned that you think they get hundreds of dollars. It's not hundreds. It's a blended rate of about 100.
The cost for police is it's about half of what the villages pay, total pay, gross pay with overtime, or
Right.
not necessarily even overtime. It's really the hourly rate plus fringe benefits. It is not necessarily for the most part, the events that we run, or any public gathering, we usually have. And Chief Zimmerman, correct me, but my understanding is we usually put additional staff on when we know there's a large public gathering, because that's a responsible thing to do. That's not necessarily what we're talking about in this policy. There are, however, and it would not be the majority of events, but we do have had in the past very large events that really require significantly more people than we would have on normally. Once we reach a certain threshold, we have to consider the fact that it's not 1 or 2 officers that are now working an additional shift that they wouldn't normally working, but possibly 4, 5, 6, and also sanitation and public work staff, recreation staff that would not typically be working. For the most part, our events are the way we're managing them, the current event fees cover, but in the occurrence of very large events, we're talking about events that would exceed over 1,000 people, that would require numerous roads to be shut down, that would go on for durations of a very, very long time. We would look at the additional staff and figure out an hourly rate based on that. It's hard to put that into the policy because it really is dependent on the structure of the event. It would be tailored to the event. It is not to get full cost recovery. We get the cost that the village gets back for its event is less than 5% of total expenditures for events per year. So I just want to be clear, the intent is not to create something where you'd go from having a few hundred or a few $1,000s in fees, depending on the size of your event, to tens of thousands of dollars. I just want to be real clear here. That's not the intent.
Right, so that was sort of the points of clarification.
Okay, I just want to focus on the Sunday events thing. We currently have some things that happen on Sunday that like the procession that we're going to have in a little bit for Palm Sunday. That's something that's going to go out in the street, obviously. So according to this, would that be prevented next year?
It didn't sound like, how are
I
you
think
handling?
So what we did
All
is
right.
we were talking about our larger events that are typically done on village property, Market Square,
Yeah,
or
this would go into the street.
this goes onto the street. The Palm Sunday is I think that because of the nature of that event, additionally typically for your processions, we're not talking about a lot of village staff other than additional police staff. So we can talk about the scope of that, but I think it would be difficult to prohibit a Palm Sunday event.
So let me understand, is your concern that one event? Because
No,
it's
no.
a Sunday event?
No, I mean, there's plenty of others I could point to. I'm just pointing towards one specific.
Well, but that's important because if you're, and I understand the concept of churches and I understand all of that. We have many of them in this village. If you are saying, I need that Sunday, that's something we can discuss and say, you know, it happens once. If you're here to say that out of the 52 weekends, of which 36 have decent weather, that you need 20 processions, and 20 times a year, there's thousands of people on the streets, that's a different conversation. So are you asking for one because it's Palm Sunday, or are you saying you have many that are out on the street, closing the streets down, requiring police, requiring all of that? What is sort of the scope?
So my question is, based on that, on the wording of it, if I were to want to have a procession 2 months from now, that's not normally on the calendar, would based on the wording, that would be prohibited? Which, in my understanding, and I'm no constitutional lawyer, I know we have a lawyer present.
Oh, I think you should be
That-
though, because I'm impressed that you've got this all down. I
So
like it.
that this would be going against our First Amendment right there, because we're not able to have this procession based on the wording of this. And
And yet,
this
I
is
would
just
say
one.
that's an
This is just
interesting idea, but a more interesting idea and a better way to think of a community of which a religious organization lives with a community of many religions, including non-religious people. I think the better way to say it is, why wouldn't you sit down with the village manager in advance and say, for 2024 and 2025, these are the Sundays I need, because in your policy, which affects over 200 of organizations like mine, all of whom have a mission, have a belief, some religious, some not, all of them have an opportunity to sit down and say, I'm going to need these 8. I need Palm Sunday, I need this, I need that. This one's going to have 500, this one's going to have 2,000. Instead of looking at it this way, why wouldn't you just sit down? Because we've had other religious leaders in the community sit down with the village manager and say, these are the days I need. It's hard to run municipalities with people that come in and say, what if I wanted to do something in 2 months? The answer is the reason we create policies is because while you want to do something in 2 months, 14 other organizations have the same right, whether they're religious or not. They also have missions. They feed the hungry, they are political, they're whatever they are. For them, that is their passion in their life. That is their belief. So how does a municipality manage it? Create policies. We put it out to the public, look at the public as all of the public. And we say, if this doesn't fit your belief and your passion, you should be sitting down with the village manager or the elected officials and tell us what it is that you need. Not what the policy says, but can you guys give me this Sunday or that Sunday? Not, what if I want to do something in a month or two? That it's a different way of approaching, and I would suggest that might be easier. I mean, that's just an idea. I'm not saying you have to do it, but it seems logical.
I mean, I'm sure you're all aware of the fact we follow the special events and send all the things with ample time, so that's not an issue. We're very communicative in our things that happened. So that aside, my question then would be followed to that is, why even have something? And I understand you mentioned with the overtimes and things like that, and people don't work on Sundays, but why have something that would make it difficult for us as a church to be able to have something on Sunday, which is our high holy day? And why make it specifically so that we can't do it on, like you said, village property, to go out and do it in the streets, or as it's worded, that we can't even if it costs village resources. So something else, just because you mentioned, is not just specifically that. In a few weeks, we're also going to have Divine Mercy Sunday, Divina Misericordia, which are our representatives right here, that he leads it. And that's our outdoor mass. And if we wanted to do that based on this and other things before that we've spoken about with the things, that is just making it difficult for us to be able to just worship, even in our own space. And why specifically make it so that it's harder for us to be able to plan and look forward to having these kind of religious events, or just fundraisers? Because the fundraisers so that we could feed the poor, which we do in droves. And like I said, literally 5,000 that we're feeding on a weekly basis. And why make that difficult for us? So following up to your question is that, why make it hard for us to be able to do this?
So now we're getting into a conversation. I'm going to let others speak.
Yeah.
I disagree with your conclusion. I don't think we're making it harder. I think that the municipality has X number of people that have to supply their time to over 30,000 human beings, all of whom live here, have businesses, work here, have different religious answers. Other people have other days of the week that are their religious passion. Others have no religion and really prefer not to have this. So now we're getting into a very complicated conversation. What we do have is X number of people work X number of hours, and that's the availability. And people have to be there. Police have to be there because we've had problems. We've had problems with litter. We've had problems with people blocking private properties. We've had lots of problems. And you know that because we've had these conversations, which I'm not going to get into now, but you know that they exist. And you're inside a neighborhood with residences as well that also have their desires and needs, which also are our constituents. And so that conversation is a different conversation. This is a public meeting for you to come speak. I'm going to let my colleagues, if they want to say anything. We don't actually usually have these open sessions, but we only have 4 of you on the list. So if you have other questions, happy to entertain them, unless somebody else wants to say something. Happy to hear from others. Anybody else? And then we haven't forgotten. We're going to go to you. Anybody else wants? We normally don't do this. I know you all came, you took your time. We normally don't do back and forths. That's not how these public sessions go.
Thank
They're
you.
for the public to ask us questions. They're not for conversations. We hear the public. We then assign the appropriate people in the village, either staff or electeds, to continue the conversation. But I see people are concerned. You all took your time. You came out in the rain. I want to be respectful of everybody's time and energy, and that you had to find parking tonight in this miserable weather. So I want to open it up, but you should know that from a policy point of view, these are hearing sessions, not necessarily conversations. So especially for the record, because all of this gets recorded, I want to make sure people understand.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Madam Manager, Karen, would you mind responding to Father Elvin's question about what happens next year during Palm Sunday or other events that happen on Sundays?
So, policies, it's very, very hard to do a one size fits all. The intent of the Sunday events really was tailored to events that, to address events that happen on public space on days that typically when we run an event, we need our parks department on, we need our sanitation department on, we need police work every day. So that does not an issue. If we're doing an event in Market Square or something else, it is far less expensive for the taxpayers to have that event done on a Saturday or a different day as opposed to a Sunday. I don't believe, and if I'm wrong, Father Elvin, please correct me, your Sunday services are not you don't file an event permit for your Sunday services that are done on your property, correct?
No.
Right. So there's no reason that your Sunday services would ever be impacted by this because they're your services on your property. We know that services at St. Anne's happen on Sunday. So that doesn't even come into the equation because those aren't considered events. Palm Sunday event is really understood. I don't see a reason why that would be, it might, if I remember correctly, that's, if there's more processions that take place on a Sunday, because obviously Palm Sunday is a very specific day, that's something that can be discussed. This policy is not, written in stone, and it's good to get this feedback, but the intent of the policy is really not designed to prohibit anybody's freedom of speech or freedom of religion. In this case, it really is designed to make sure that we're using taxpayer resources as responsibly as possible.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions, Susan? Okay. Sure.
Yeah, hi, Father Elvin.
Hello.
How are you? So your concern is that for one of your longer processions, of which you have several a year, that you would have to pay extra basically for the police.
Based on the numbers, an extremely large amount. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is
Is there a fee now?
There's currently a
police?
fee now. Yes.
Okay. So you're concerned about an increase in that fee.
Yes, I would
Do
be
we
happy.
know what that increase would be?
At
It's
the
in the-
Yeah, at the $100 is recommended for the regular ones, but for the level 4 ones, it would include the $100 per hour per police officer. Yeah.
Okay.
That's subject, so that really, unless you're having a level 4 event, it doesn't really impact you. So that's basically, we're designing a fee based on a structure that exceeds what our typical events are.
But if you're marching from Nelson Park to St. Anne's down Spring Street, for example, that requires some police to be there
I
now.
I
don't
think
know.
that, yes. So typically the processions, I think we're getting into details that, to be perfectly honest, one, the hearing tonight is specific to the local law. None of these things, these are all policy issues. None of them are in the local law that is being voted on tonight. Just want to clarify. I think that it is very hard. This is designed to take very large scale events that take beyond the resources of our average events and look at those differently, because in the past we've had sort of a level 3 that was for events with 500 people literally, or events that sometimes exceeded thousands of people, and they were basically paying the same fee for the physical services of staff. This is to address the fact that in the past we've had very large scale events where we put on significantly more resources that was not really addressed, which is not really fair to people who have the smaller events who are also paying that same fee. So this is really, when you talk about the way the village fair was done, that was a level 3 event. It's not comparable to the way the Portuguese fair is done. There's a discrepancy there. And that's more of the intent of the policy, is to right size the very large events, which tend to be outliers in our event network. Processions are a little bit different. They tend to be short. There are some much larger processions during the year that we can discuss. That can all be discussed. And again, it wouldn't necessarily mean every policeman who is on there, you're paying the extra fee for. It would mean if there's a significant amount, and we are making that somewhat loosely defined, because until we sit down and go through the structure of the event and what's physically needed with the whole committee, we can't tell you what the true cost is going to be. And again, when the village recoups these costs, we are recouping less than 5% of what it's actually costing us to facilitate these events. That's something that we have to do as a municipality to not fall into the area where we're giving away a gift of public funds, because these are taxpayer dollars, not village dollars. And that's, I think, but again, this is typical in virtually all municipalities. We tend to try to make this as reasonable as we can. And we will certainly work with organizations that are maybe newer, doing very large scale events. And we will certainly work with St. Anne's as we have in the past.
Thank you.
All right.
You're
Thank you
on.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Gina?
I need to know, we know where Father Elvin's from, but I need to know,
Yep.
not that I don't know you, but for the record,
Problem.
please, name and where you are in the village of Ossining, your connection to either your residence or whatever.
Got it. Gina Sartario. I'm at 17 Claremont Road. I am the current president of the Ossining Matters Education Foundation.
Thank you.
Caroline Turner, Vice President of Ossining Matters Education Foundation, and I live on Edgewood Road in Ossining.
Great. So we're going to give you, well, you're two people, but we'll
we don't need
we'll
to-
aim for the time and we'll see where we are.
We're
Okay.
here just to express our opinion
Okay.
about the additional level of costs that is on the table for the police.
For tonight's
officers for-
vote.
Exactly. So for
Okay.
the events, and we understand there's 4 levels, and we understand the size of the events are going to determine how many police officers are there and how much extra expense that we would have to incur. Last year, when we held our race after COVID, it was kind of a sticker shock for us when we held it at the rec center, because that was the first time we had to pay such high fees. And as you know, what we raise goes directly back to the students of this community. So in essence, the fees that the village charges us comes out of what we can give back to the children directly, as is similar to the Reverend here and St. Anne's. So it is cost prohibitive. So what we're only saying, I think what I'm here to say is that if there's a way
Mhm.
that we can continue to give back to these students in a meaningful way, because it's getting harder and harder to raise money, that it makes it so hard that we're not sure if the organization is gonna survive, because COVID hit us hard, and we're trying really hard to do what we can to raise these funds. And as a community that doesn't have a lot of money, I mean, there is a there's just not a lot of money in this community to continue to support the students. That's why we go out and we try to raise. So we're wondering, one, if the police department can offset, not the police department, the fire department can offset possibly the cost of the police department for traffic control during our events, particularly for the race. If not, will we have the opportunity to have the Westchester County Auxiliary Police come and offset the cost of trafficking? Now, we don't expect not to have them, because we surely need our police department for certain aspects of the race and certain events. And we usually do our events at the schools, which works out really well. But if there's a way we can offset these costs through other organizations within the community, like I just mentioned, the fire department in particular, or the Westchester County Police, we'd like to put that on the table and see if that's an option.
Great. Were you going to add something?
Yeah.
I don't have much to add, but I'm curious. It's interesting that you said it's about 5% of the cost is what we're paying. And then I'm wondering sort of then why are we doing this? Why are we being asked to do this? And it sounds like we're being asked to because other municipalities are doing this. And so we're following suit as a way to try to offset costs. But, this community is different than a lot of other communities. And it seems as though this would hit this community very hard, and the most vulnerable people in this community very hard. And therefore, it wouldn't hit equally. And it would have
So-
a bigger impact on the people that really need support of
The village.
the village, yeah.
So let
Taxpayer.
me answer your last piece. we don't follow other municipalities. If we were to follow other municipalities, we wouldn't have events. Municipality after municipality, short of cities in Westchester County, have been limiting more and more events. Fairs, wine and cheese, fundraisers on public space. They make nonprofits raise their money, find an event. School-related events are expected to take place on school grounds. The school has its own board. It has a multi-million-dollar, much larger fund, much more the dollars that all of us, because we all live here, go to the school, actually, right? You know that.
We know that.
Right. So just for the record, so that people listen to this, because I'll be getting emails tomorrow. The school has a far larger budget than the people sitting in front of you manage. They could also fund it if they so wish, but they're not doing that. And they have property, just like the village has property. They manage their own properties. So that's one thing. It isn't that we follow municipalities. One would argue that actually we're ahead of almost all, not cities, Yonkers, New Rochelle, Peekskill's a city. They have more space, more police. Yonkers has its own entire own police whole entity actually outside the county. So we're not following anybody. We actually are holding on to allowing for more events because of your comment about the average income and the community. And again, might I remind everyone that every nonprofit, where they're taking care of the elderly, the poor, food, diversity, Sing Sing prisoners, the environment, all believe that what they're doing goes right back to the children and the families of Ossining for the most part. And then there are all the county ones, feeding Westchester that comes here and feeds thousands of people. This isn't an asset allocation of one over the other, and it's not an allocation of this community versus that. The staff looks at community. So when people say, that's outrageous, how could you charge $50 for that? They do their homework. That's their job. They're municipal government that does their homework and says, we may charge 50. Everybody else either doesn't allow it or charges 500, which by the way, is why this community attracts people from outside 10562. Many of the events are not residents of this village. They are family members. I love them. They can all come here. I got no problem with it. But it is also fair to say, not specific to you, that many organizations attract people from outside this community because in their communities, whether it's Bridgeport, Connecticut, or the other side of Westchester, their mayors and their boards no longer allow it, one after the other. And then some are now wanting to charge for public space at all times, not just for extras. So I actually think what the staff has done is come up with a policy and a plan that is equitable to many of the nonprofits, many of whom are not here because they read the policy and said, okay, I may or may not be able to live with it. On the large scale is the issue. Why, whether we can use the Westchester County Police, I have no idea. Don't know. I mean, you can call them. I have no idea.
I will, but I just.
Whether you could use the fire department, no idea. They're a volunteer fire department. If there's a fire, they have to leave and go somewhere else. They're not going to stay around.
We know how it works. Yeah.
So I know, you've lived here a long time. I know all the intentions. I was at the race. I wish I could run as much as some of those people, maybe next year. So I don't know exactly where we can help. The pricing is a fair pricing. Raising money has been a downturn throughout the region about raising money for nonprofits. And the fact that you compete with so many nonprofits says a lot for how wonderful we have a volunteer community, but that means you're also competing with someone. So I don't know how to help. But I can tell you that the staff has done, and that's the role here. The staff looks at research to say, are we equitable? Do we meet most of the needs? You never meet 100%. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add, village manager, or else. I mean, based on some of the comments.
If I could just comment
Yeah.
back to what you were
Yeah.
saying before we go over to the village manager. So when we said you're following what the other communities are doing, we were just responding to what she said
Right.
about what other surrounding communities have been doing. So that's where that comes
It's
in.
the research part.
That's
Yeah.
fine, but that's where that comment comes in.
Yeah.
So it is
Oh,
likely.
no, I totally get it.
Okay,
I'm trying to
because
clarify.
I
I'm
know
not
you said we're
arguing
not
with you.
following. It's okay. What And I just lost my train of thought.
What is it that you're looking for specific? No. Listen.
No, my
I
train of
like
thought
what you
left.
guys do. How many of your shirts have I
No, we're
bought?
not
Please.
looking for anything specific.
what is
We're
the-
just looking for opportunities to offset that cost
I
so that
see.
we can keep as much of the fundraising money that we have. I don't expect, I mean, a Sunday, everybody's supposed to rest. When officers have to work, they should get the amount of money they get. I mean, because I would want that. I'm supposed to be with my family, regardless if it's from my religion, my child. If I'm out there working and protecting and serving, I'd like to be able to give back to my family as well. So I understand that. All we're looking for is other alternatives to be able to offset costs. And I'm sure the Reverend would be open to that too, where we can not take away from what funds, what we support, but more gives back to them in a way that's more meaningful. That's all we're looking for. So, but since I'll look into this with the Westchester County
Yeah.
Auxiliary, and I know the fire department because my husband's been a volunteer for 37 years, I will talk to them and see what we can come up with, and I'll bring the proposal back to you.
And tell me again, how many miles is that?
Oh,
So 5K, 3.2.
we were
And-
hoping to do 10, but no, we're going to stick with the.
And you can't do it
miles.
on the school property, right?
No, there's no possible way, and it's a straight route. So, and it's only one crossover. We were looking at Mariondale as actually having
Yeah.
it there. But
No?
there's we just can't do that this year, but next year as we begin to grow, we have other options. We know we're doing it this year. And when we heard that there's $100 per cop that takes
Again, that's only if you need the incremental.
yeah,
wouldn't
the
get all caught
level
up.
1, 2, 3, and
Yeah.
4, right?
What
Um,
might be, it's beyond us. It's really for the large. How many people did you have last year running?
Well, I think we had
We
somewhere
had
around
less.
400, maybe.
No, we had under that. We had probably 300.
It
Yeah, I was
in a
gonna say,
rain too. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
nice.
a little
I
drizzle.
mean,
They were
this was
fine.
our first time back in what, 5 years.
Yeah, I don't think you have that large number. I actually think you're one below the large.
Yeah, this year we
No,
want to have it though.
What might be helpful, well, I know you're hoping for
Yeah, we're
more.
hoping to grow.
What
But we
might,
understand what you mean.
what might be helpful though is actually to look at maybe helping them find routes that may be
Um,
easier to manage, but I'm just spitballing here.
That doesn't go over a main road,
the
yeah.
police were definitely involved with that last year, and I know there were some routes that we did, the police department did say maybe that's not the best idea. I certainly think that Chief Zimmerman will, be able to determine whether or not we can use
Right.
volunteer firefighters or auxiliary cops to do traffic control during the race. I want to reiterate, we're not doing this because my point was, we're not doing this because other communities do it. This is actually New York state law. So I just want to say the reason municipalities have policies is to make sure that there are not gifts of what's called gifts of public funds. So that's why municipalities do it. We try to make sure ours is appropriate for our community as it can be.
Got it.
Well, we'll think about it.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Appreciate all
coming
your
in.
thoughts on this thing.
I have to ask though, what's the date this year? Oh,
Anna Rodriguez.
good evening.
Good evening. My name is Anna Rodriguez. I'm here on behalf of the Austin Portuguese Center. So I came in because first of all, I wanted to thank the village for allowing us to hold our event over the last 25 years. We really appreciate it. I guess I just wanted to hear, and I think I got some understanding from some of the previous speakers. So my understanding is that these are recommendations that you want to implement into the special events policy.
Well, I'm going to let you finish.
Yes.
I'm
So that's
noting
what,
that
yeah.
question. I'm
So
sure
that
the
was
village
what I
will
was,
answer
yeah,
that.
that's what I was trying to understand, because from what I heard is that, if these are going to the policy, there is the opportunity of looking at the events and seeing whether certain exceptions could be made depending on the event. And I guess, because of the people we have here, they're open to that. But if we put something in the policy and somebody new comes on board, are they going to stick to the letter of the policy? And I guess it depends on what the wording is going to be that's going to be implemented into the policy.
So, first of all, we've had the policy in place for a while.
Yes.
Letters went out to committees held. It's like a 3 or 4 year event. This didn't just happen today.
Yes.
And things were sent, and these updates were made based on issues that have come up, one of which you described. So people from outside of Austin also come and want, because they can't do it anywhere else. So they come here and they try to go in, or organizations already in Austin that keep saying, well, it's the same 12 organizations always get to do everything. How do you get into this? we also have an organization that grew from a small organization to a large, and why don't we have access to the same? So these are all balancing acts. And by the way, beautiful 25 years last
Thank
year. Very much enjoyed it. I've never seen that square look so clean as after you people leave it. So thank you. Appreciate it. Karen, the effect on them is what? And this is a meeting about the update to the policies.
Yeah.
Well, two things. This is a meeting for the things that will be in village code, which have nothing to do with right now, the fees or any of the things in the policy. The policy, how it's written today could change if somebody new comes in and then the board discusses it publicly, and it could change anytime. It's not village code. It's not law. I think that while we would love to put more clarification into it, we were at a point where we might look to fine tune that. That's something that we can continue to do. But again, it's a little bit confusing. There are certain elements of the policy that need to be reflected in the village code. Those are the specific things that we're voting on tonight. The policy itself is fluid. So, we establish a policy, but again, it could be different people in 2 years from now, and they could decide, well, we want a completely different policy. So that would be subject to public conversation at that time. So I just want to say that to the degree that anybody, again, I just want to make sure this week, for the most part, I don't see, we're not,
Hold on. Where's that coming from? Did you move your papers on it?
No.
would not fall under a category that would change much. And we will work with people and we will make adjustments as we can. The policy is not law.
So, the things that were kind of, I know you share some information with everybody here. What things are actually going to be put into the policy that's different? I guess that's I wasn't too sure.
I sent you and everybody,
Yeah.
think, in this room.
It's all in the writing that you sent to you.
Okay.
Yeah, all of the policy changes are in the memo I sent to
Okay.
you.
So the fees itself, like depending on the level of events.
Right.
The
Okay.
fees, the fee increases are noted there as well.
For the very large ones,
And
of
then
which
we
there are
did-
few,
we-
but you might be.
Yeah, and we did recommend that there be an increase to the level 2 and level 3 events in the policy going forward.
And I think perhaps with the other groups and ourselves where we were just not sure, when you speak to the usage of village resources, specifically the
Mhm.
police department, exactly what the impact would be, because as you're trying to put together an event, you're trying to figure out the expenses and things like that. So
So when we went through this again, the events that are held, what would trigger a level 4 event really would be the village fair that was done in the
Okay.
past. That really is it's the best example I can think of as an event that is much, much larger, involves that's full court press the whole day. That's almost all of our village staff all day Saturday. And even then, I don't think that that's what the plan is for the village fair this year, but even if it were, it wouldn't be every single person on staff. We'd look at a fraction of the people who are on staff that typically wouldn't be working, and we'd look to work with the event organizer to make sure that there's some compensation for the fact that the village, a fair like that is much larger than, say, the Portuguese festival, and therefore requires more staff. But again, we would work with the organizers, and I think as we go through this, we'll be able to, make those definitions clearer.
Yeah.
But we will be working with organizers. There'll be a pre-application meeting, and we'll be working to make sure that we maintain the imperative of not falling into a position where we're giving a gift of public funds, but we're also working as respectfully as we can with the event organizers. for a
So the
successful event.
challenge is always number of people,
Mhm.
number of workers there, parking, right? That's what you have to think about. You run an event, most nonprofits say as many as possible. It doesn't work that way. We have limited parking, we have limited space, we have limited police, limited everything. There has to be accountability and responsibility of organizations of all sizes, to estimate how many people they will have. They can't come in and say it's 100 and have 10,000. It's not reasonable. It's not reasonable to the businesses. It's not reasonable to the buses that have to go through our community. It's not reasonable for the grandmother who wants to play with her granddaughter and thought it was going to be quiet in the park. That's not, the organizers have a responsibility. Now, you think it's 200 and 300 come, of course, who would expect you to know the exact, but you have to have a sense. You've been doing it for 25 years. You have to have a sense of yours.
Yeah.
New people would argue, I don't have a sense. Okay, but you publicize, you know where you publicized, you know who you've invited. If you've been doing it before, which 90% of the folks have, you should have a sense of what happens. So it's fair to expect an organizer that is raising money for whatever good cause, and they're all good causes, that's why they're nonprofits, they have to have a sense on behalf of the community that lives here, that has children here who don't participate in the events, businesses that have to run their businesses, who need parking. We live in a community, not in an island. And that is actually the role of both the electeds and the staff, is to think in those terms. So you know how many people you've had for the past 5 years. I know COVID was a mess. I get that. But we're not talking about that. You know how many musicians, you know who you're inviting, you know where you're putting the posters. You have a sense. You might be off a little bit here and there. Nobody expects math geniuses to, but you have to have a sense. It's not fair that the staff is told, I don't know. It's not fair. It's not fair to everybody. So I think, you'll meet, you'll do your pre-op, you'll have a sense of what it is,
Okay.
how it works.
I mean, it's just what was proposed in terms of the policy. I don't think anybody, we understand the reason behind. I think what most people were a little bit concerned is, trying to determine when you're speaking to paying for resources.
Because everything
events.
went up.
Yeah.
And
budget.
all the budgeting and everything went up, including
Oh, I
salaries
understand.
and everything
I
else.
understand.
Literally everything.
Okay, thank you.
That is a fact, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Yes, Anna Guzman would like to speak.
Hello there.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, trustees, and congratulations to the new chief. And thank you for the opportunity to be. I'm representing.
I know we all know you. I just need name, address. and
My name is Ana Guzman. I represent Hacen en Padres Hispanos, a nonprofit organization. We're here to. I wasn't speak because the priest was going to say, but I guess I have to. Thank you for the opportunity, first of all, because you were supporting our Hispanic festival. 32 years ago, I was concerned since all those years there were no Hispanic festivals, since the majority of the community are Hispanic. But I feel sad because we didn't have a festival. So finally, 4 years ago, we did our first one with your support. Thank you. But I'm a little concerned now because our events are mostly on Sundays. Why? Because I think the majority of our community, they work on Monday to Saturday. So if we want to do an event, it has to be Sunday, especially also because Sunday, I think we need more events or Sunday. Sometimes the families don't know where to go. Sometimes they're bored in the house. So I think it's not only for us, it's for everybody. We need to put more events, like family events. So we can, sometimes money is not everything, sometimes we need a place where families can go and, our event try to show culture, our music, our food, so we can share with everybody. They can know our culture. So I think Sundays for us is the best time. So if you say doing another day, it's going to be hard for us. I know we can do it, but it's not going to be the same. So I put that in consideration. Sundays, everybody is off. Everybody, sometimes, like I said, they're bored in the house. They don't know where to go. So I invite all the Americans to come and see our culture, our food, have a good time, because we don't even sell beer. We don't sell alcohol. We show our food, music, so we can come and dance, have a good time. I think that is where we need in this community more, because our young people don't know where to go. Sometimes they do bad stuff just because there's no place to go. So just put that in consideration, please.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Is there anybody
Okay.
on Zoom that would like
Do
to
you have
speak?
anybody on Zoom? You can walk out. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
a
You won't be
public,
on
we're not offended.
If anybody would like to raise their virtual hand, I'll bring you over and you can speak. Look like we have
Okay.
one.
We're gonna close.
I
No,
will.
but
I know, I
do
will.
have-
No. Who said close? Nobody said close. No, I heard you. I got it, but conversation, what, is there a problem? Oh, okay.
All right, thanks, Mayor. Thank you. I mean, we haven't seen a full packed room in a while, so I appreciate you guys coming in. So, Father, Alvin, I think what's up? I think I need your number so I can start sending some messages so we can get the community a little more engaged in a lot of stuff that we are going through. But that being said, just keep in mind that this, what you see in the agenda, just a little bit of point of clarification. Please, Stuart, correct me if I'm wrong. This is a public hearing. We're not voting on anything. This is an opportunity to hear what the community has to say. I want to be perfectly clear that even if you didn't have any opportunity to speak tonight, send us an email. Send the village manager an email. Be like, what is your concerns? This is my concern and this is why. Because we are here to make sure that whatever policy we pass, it reflects what the board wants to do. That being said, I want to keep something, I want you guys to keep something in mind as well. This is just one layer of what we do. Part of the conversations that we have in our budget, how we budget overtime. Because we do have different lines throughout the budgets where we have overtime for staff, overtime for police department, where a lot of this stuff gets put in place. Father Elvin and Father Ed, prior to that, we had asked them to send us a list of different events so the police department is aware and how the processions go. So that's just one of the layers that a lot of stuff that happens prior to us making a policy change. I love events. I think Austining is different because of that. And I encourage people to do events, this type of events. Father Ed, Father Ed started that a long time ago in St. Anne's, and Father Elvin continues that. I'm not going to go about a little bit about that, but there's some stuff that we need to work on, some of the events that happen on a church level. But I'm glad that everybody came out. I'm glad that some of you have the opportunity to speak and raise your concerns. I wish a little bit more of you will actually come up and speak, but that's okay. I'm going to hold you to that next time. So I'm going to say something in Spanish and then we can translate that in English. Les agradezco mucho. Les agradezco que ustedes hayan tenido la oportunidad de venir para acá. Lo que le estaba diciendo al padre Elvin es que me dé el número del WhatsApp para yo poder mandar mensajes a toda la comunidad en ese sentido para que se involucren un poquito más. Porque esto es solo una fase de lo que a veces nos afecta a todos, no solo a la comunidad hispana, a todos en general. So, les agradezco que hayan venido. Si ustedes vinieron por una propuesta que nosotros estamos ahorita para pasar, posiblemente no hoy, pero si es que ustedes tienen alguna opinión, alguna recomendación, por favor, mándenos un correo electrónico, mándenos una carta. El correo electrónico de nosotros es la villageofaustining.org. Eso viene para todos nosotros, aquí a los concejales y a la alcaldesa también. So, por favor, involúcrense, tengan en mente de cualquier otra opinión que tengan ustedes de lo que nosotros estamos haciendo aquí en Austining. Y muchas gracias por venir.
I'm glad you put in the BOT at Village of Austining. So, because I was going to do that. So thank you. Because this is recorded, now you have to translate, unless it's a translation, what you said before.
You just translated.
Okay,
You just-
fabulous.
yeah.
Okay. So BOT at Village of Austining, and not just about this topic. We always actually enjoy everything. I got that part. I even got the letters. I think like other people should hear it. Thank you. Anybody else on this topic? Okay.
So please keep involved on this. Not over yet. Yes.
It's not about over or under. It's a policy that the board is looking at.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I would like to keep it open. A motion to adjourn this.
May I just make one point?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we're conflating two things.
Yep.
Yeah.
The policy is separate from the local law. there's been no comments with regard to the local law tonight. Everything's been about the policy, which is a separate issue. So I mean, it's the board's discretion if you want to keep the public hearing open, but this is just on the proposed local law dealing with the special events.
Can I? Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's why I'm looking at you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll start in Spanish and I'll go backwards. So, gracias por venir. Mi nombre es Omar López. Yo soy vicealcalde aquí en Ossining. Algunas cosas para aclarar. Primeramente, nosotros tenemos una póliza que estamos mirando ahora mismo y eso es, mucha de la comentario que hemos tenido esta noche es sobre esa póliza. Eso no es la ley. También tenemos una ley local que estamos, que ustedes pueden comentar. Entonces, lo que vamos a votar ahora es si queremos cerrar comentarios públicos sobre la ley local. También tenemos la póliza y eso es algo aparte de la ley local. Eso básicamente dice cómo es que nosotros usamos esa ley para poder funcionar, específicamente con los eventos especiales. En este momento nosotros tenemos muchas organizaciones sin fines de lucros, organizaciones que hacen trabajos por la comunidad y también iglesias y comunidades de fe que usan espacios públicos para sus eventos. Entonces nosotros tenemos que tener alguna manera de poder organizar eso porque tenemos calles que tenemos que cerrar para procesiones, tenemos parques que tenemos que poder limpiar después de los eventos, cosas así. Entonces tenemos que tener una manera para organizarnos y eso es la póliza. Ahora, aparte de eso, tenemos que tener una ley local. Vamos a votar ahora a lo demás. Yo no sé lo que vamos a hacer, pero a lo demás vamos a votar para cerrar los comentarios públicos para la ley local. Pero si tienes comentarios, si tienen una carrera, si tienen una procesión, lo que sea, y quieren cambiar el lenguaje que nosotros tenemos en la póliza, por favor, díganos, porque queremos usar los comentarios que tengan ustedes para poder servirle mejor. Al fin del día, esta comunidad es de ustedes. Nosotros somos representantes de ustedes, el público, para poder usar lo que tenemos aquí, nuestro pueblo, para poder seguir adelante. Just separating, we have a local law.
I got
we
it.
have
I
policies.
understand enough.
You got it. I just want to make sure for anybody who didn't get it. We have a local law. We have policies. We're going to vote to likely now close comments on the local law, but that doesn't shut down comments on the policy, and it's an ongoing conversation. So if you have comments on the policy, we're now adding this level 4, more details, what happens if you have larger events. That comment should continue. We would love to hear from the community. We're ultimately looking to manage limited resources, streets, parks that are all for public use. And so that's what the policy is meant to respond to.
Right. So from my perspective, on these agendas, which are delivered on the website and through the mayor message, if you clicked on, you actually get the discussion. If you only heard about this meeting earlier today, you may not have had the opportunity to actually read what we're actually here to discuss today, which is the law part, not the policy part. So we could close unless you want to still keep it
I
open.
would like to
The
keep it open.
policy is a policy that we can discuss, like we discuss fees and everything else. So
Yeah, but just keep in mind that if there are some things on the law that could be modified, regardless of what the policy is, I still would like to have that opportunity to have more organizations or individuals that may have some concerns for us to keep.
yeah, I
That's
don't
what
have a problem with that. The issue is that not one person here actually commented on the topic on the agenda, which is what this public hearing is about, which is actually the law, which is what the attorney is pointing out. I don't have a problem. People, I think it's very complicated, right? In some ways it's easy. I have no issue with extending this another week. Does it do any damage if we extend another week, the local law? Are you guys okay or? Okay, no, that's fine. Is there a problem? Is there a time of the essence issue, village manager, about the law? Does it stop you from doing something if we extend it?
Right
People will have
now,
more time to read the law. Maybe they have comments. I don't think many people here did.
I don't believe anything in the law negate, like the law is really very, very separate from the policy. So I think the reason people haven't commented on it is the items in the law really are to enable the policy, but don't change our ability to change. I don't think there's anything in the local law
Right.
that we would amend based on, I mean, you know.
So if I would suggest, I think there's, you know, it's semantics. It says, if it doesn't make a difference, then why not, right? Like, we don't need to argue about extending something for another week, so people might have an opportunity to look at it. People may not, if it doesn't harm anything, and it doesn't matter, then why not? I don't, do you guys have a problem in extending even the vote on the law? Oh, yes. Okay.
No,
Is the
I
answer.
don't mind. No. Sure. So we have the local law, and we also have the policy. So the local law, if you go right now to the Village of Ossining website, you click on the agenda, you can click and you can read and you can see the local law, because we have a special events law, and this had some changes. The local law refers to the policy. So for example, the local law has language about the level 4 events. But if you look at the local law, it doesn't give you much detail. For that, you need to go to the policy. And so that's how they work together. So if we choose to change, keep the comments open for the local law, even if we pass the local law as it is, the policy can change if we want to continue getting feedback on that. The kind of feedback that we get, let's say you run your event in September and you say, hey, we're looking to make these particular changes. Some of those changes might require a change in the local law for special events, but likely not. Likely we're able to just make shifts in the policy, correct?
Right. So legislative bodies do both law and policy. Policy fluid. Meetings happen. Can you make this and everything, whether it's anything, name any policy made. Laws are designed so that they're more coded, right? And that's why we have public hearings and all that. And they allow for things to happen, like that the policy goes into effect, but you can change the pieces of the policy as needed, as things change. That's one of the ways to explain it. So, and again, that's why we put them a week in advance and we do it. The attorney was simply saying, not a single person actually, the discussion tonight is whether to pass the law or not, the law, and people actually. No, we understand why. We
No,
get it. We're
ma'am, if- ma'am,
listen,
if
we
you
totally get it.
read it, you'll see there's a lot in there about insurance. It's make things a lot different. It's not the policy.
Yeah.
Law is not the policy.
It's totally a different
Public
ballgame.
hearing tonight.
So maybe some people didn't read it. It's okay. Sometimes when we pass law, there's real time of the essence. It really affects signing a contract that if you don't, price go up or whatever. Okay. Buying a truck, if you don't do it today, you're allowed to. So it's time is up. This is not time is of the essence. That's why I asked the attorney. So I don't have a problem. Do we go another week so people have time to read it? And
It actually would
do-
be March 20th.
till March 20th. Okay. And that way, and people, you don't have to come. If you want to email, it's fine. You want to come. Honestly, we love having people here. We're, no problem for us. So we're going to do it. We're
We have
going
a motion to adjourn to March 20th.
Okay. Anybody?
So-
Bob,
Second.
any comments? I think
All
we
in
missed the
favor?
Comments. All in favor
Aye.
is being asked?
Aye.
Aye, Bob?
Nay,
Nay for you.
yes.
Explanation or without explanation? No explanation needed. You know
Two-
that.
I'll tell you my explanation. 2
Okay.
weeks is gonna make a difference. All right. Nobody came here tonight to talk about it. So what's 2 weeks gonna do? I don't know. I strongly believe in what Stuart's saying, and I feel we should close the motion. But you know, that's my opinion.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
All right, that ends the public hearing for this evening.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on to mayor and trustees announcements,
So you're all welcome to stay,
but you don't have.
but you don't have to. But we do ask that you leave through the building because honestly, we hear everything in here and
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah,
leave the
please-
building.
please
If you're-
go out.
If you're leaving, please go outside.
It's only who makes up the committee.
Yeah, well,
Right.
when people read it, they'll understand.
Right.
Okay, moving on to mayors and trustees announcements.
Bob, since you're on Zoom, do you have any announcements for us?
I do not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Man, you are coming in really clearly, right? This is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Got the best mic going.
Seriously.
That's my coaching voice coming out.
Wow. Okay, Manny? Am I right? Anybody? Okay. All right.
Wait, can I do actually.
You have.
I just want to underscore 2 points that you made earlier, Mayor. In first, congratulating our new chief, Aaron Zimmerman, but also thanking our interim chief, Brendan Donahue, for his service as interim chief, continued service as captain, 20 plus years on the force. Thank you, because it is truly a team effort. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. What do we have next?
I'm sorry. Could you please step outside of the building?
They sort of are, but
They're working on it.
they're working on it, but they're stuck out on the. It's a big crowd and they're on the sidewalk now. Yeah. They're moving. Do you want to take a few minutes because it's too noisy?
No, no, I'm up to mayors and trustees announcements. So it's
Okay.
your time, Mayor.
No, now it is.
No,
We're,
did you just said?
no, we're done. We're
Okay.
going next.
Oh, I apologize.
Village Manager Karen Diatori.
Good evening, everybody. In lieu of my message, I really don't have anything too much new to report, but in lieu of my message and in being conscious of our time, I would like to introduce our Board of Ethics Chair, Claude Tusk, for a brief update presentation to the Board of Trustees on the activities of the Board of Ethics.
Hello, Claude. How are you? Son? He doesn't need one. This man is an opera singer practically.
Well, I wish that weren't on the record. But
Too late.
don't you have some sort of truth in reporting?
Too late, my friend. Freedom of speech.
Never mind. All right, Your Honor, members of the board, others, thank you very much for this opportunity to report to you on the past year in the Board of Ethics. This is on behalf of myself and John Freed and Nicole Varisco and Richard Gantz and Shirla Takuru, who constitute the board. As I'm sure you know, our mandate is to enforce Chapter 17 of the Ossining Code, which is the Code of Ethics. And our mandate pursuant to Section 1 of Chapter 17 is to provide advisory opinions when asked by an official of the village, to investigate complaints and make findings of fact and recommendations to you, to the Board of Trustees. That means that we are largely, not entirely, but largely a reactive body. We do not initiate things. We do not go around looking for problems. We wait for someone to come to us, either with a request for an advisory opinion or with a complaint. This year, there have been zero, not a single request for an advisory opinion.
2024, 2023.
From a year ago till today, in the past 12 months, there's been zero. We had one person approach us and ask us if we could provide the form for filing a complaint. We explained that there was no form, but we referred the person to the rules of procedure of the Board of Ethics, which contain the procedure for making a complaint. And that was the last we heard from that person. You may recall that last year it was suggested by the board or by someone on the board that it might be better to have easier access to the means of making a complaint to the Board of Ethics, rather than have it, I think the word was used, buried in the rules of procedure. I'm pretty much agnostic on that, but I know you do have on the front page of the website a set of quick links, and you could easily, I suppose, provide a quick link to the means for making a complaint to the Board of Ethics if you chose to do that. I'd like to believe that the reason there have been no complaints and no advisory opinion requests is that everyone has been ethical for the past 12 months.
That's what I was going with. Thank you.
I think that's perfectly reasonable. The one other issue that that we have pending is there's a question about how the confidentiality of the board deliberations meshes with the freedom of information requests and the requirement that we keep public records. We've been in discussion with Stuart Kahn about this, obviously. We believe that that we are exempted from the requirements of public record and freedom of information. Once we confirm that, we'll be perfectly happy.
But I can confirm.
Well, we've confirmed it, so thank you. We do occasionally, when the board believes it necessary, we do occasionally initiate minor tweaks to our rules of procedure, which obviously have to be approved by you, by the board. It's the only time that we're not reactive but proactive. One thing we have done informally, but I would like to make it formal, is there is a requirement in the code that we have monthly meetings. We have deemed that since and it started during COVID and continued thereafter, that a meeting by Zoom constitutes a meeting for that purpose, and a meeting by email constitutes a meeting. That is to say that we I circulate an email to every member of the board. I say, what's doing? Has anyone heard anything? I have no news, and then I wait to hear from everyone, and I deem that a monthly meeting. If there's no problem with that, we'll continue doing that. Okay. That is partly why the email issue became present in our minds, because during COVID we did have a number of issues that we discussed, and we discussed them by email, and we wanted to make sure that those deliberations by email were not subject to public disclosure. I think that that pretty much covers what I have to report.
Right.
I'll be glad to answer any questions to
Great.
the best of my ability.
Well, first of all, just from, and I think you know this, number one, the board, and we are sending out in the mayor's message now, sort of explanations about the various boards as an education format. But there have been administrations where there have been lots of ethics and lots of activity. That was very complicated, and many of them, both, so it's quality and quantity. So the Board of Ethics may sound like a little bit slow, but it is actually a good thing. It means that people are not having these issues, but it has to exist, because even one issue could be a very big issue, and you have to be constituted. And a number of you are lawyers, so not all, but some. So I guess it's good news. But I like your idea. I don't know if it was suggested last year, but I'm sure Jamie Hoffman might be able to put in a link so that people could find it more easily. And I'm sure she'll write you an email, and or Stuart can figure out. Does anybody have, and I thank you and everyone else on your committee for your service, because when big things happen, ethics is a big deal, as we all know, and we've seen it in other municipalities, ethical issues.
Yeah,
make or
I
break
can
from big
confirm
deals.
that we had years when we were extremely busy.
Right.
And this is the first year in my service, which goes back, I think now 5 years, that we've had nothing at all. We were, for a period of time, as you probably recall, not able to serve as a board because we did not have a quorum of the board that constituted a viable board under the rules that govern us. We need to have between 3 and 5 people, and of those, at least 3 must be residents of the village. The other 2 can be residents of other parts of Westchester County. I, for one, live in the village of Briarcliff Manor, so I'm one of the 2. And at least one of the members must be not a lawyer. And recruiting non-lawyers hasn't always been the easiest thing to do, as you very well know.
Yep.
But Shirla Tukuru is now our non-lawyer member, and we are a viable board. And I'm not encouraging business. I'm not soliciting complaints, but we are available, and people should know that if they have a complaint, we are available to deal with it.
And I don't know if anybody else has issues, but it doesn't seem like this committee to conduct business by email be problematic. Good with that? Or, okay. Does anybody else have anything else for Claude?
Want to say thank you, and I'm glad I was actually the first time I think meeting you in person, so glad that this is the first time I have met you. That means that I have behaved the past few years. So
Thank you, Claude.
Delighted to come, and thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you. And thank you
Good
for
night.
sticking
Thank you.
around.
Thank you. Corporation Counsel, Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Sue. Good evening, folks. Brief message, the zoning board meeting for Tuesday night is canceled.
Oh.
Because basically there's not much on an agenda. So some things have come off. You would know. Oh, well, last month's
Oh.
agenda was, they're still having that meeting.
Oh.
That's how long.
I mean, she's right. You should say why. I don't want, God forbid, people start
No,
thinking
no,
that
no.
we don't have enough zoning and planning stuff
And I'd
going
say-
on in this village.
Tonight's agenda, we have a number of contracts to discuss with the board, a lease agreement, license agreement rather, a couple of things dealing with a tax that we discussed last week in the work session, and some couple of matters under both continuing and new business relating to contracts that we'll get to later in the discussion, plus call for a public hearing regarding some zoning text changes and a referral of some further zoning text amendments to the planning board. Thank you very much.
Hey,
And, sorry, and by the time this meeting is over, Chief Zimmerman, would you like to comment tonight?
Sure. As far as on the PD end of things, as everyone knows, we did quite a hiring surge in the last few months, and I'm excited to say that out of the 10 officers we've just hired, 6 are complete demo field training and they've hit the streets. Remaining 4 will be done this week. So by the end of this week, we'll have 10 officers trained up and on the road as manpower. We're continuing to bolster the SRO program. We've put a 3rd SRO back in the elementary schools. It's Officer Farrell. Started this week in the schools, and also got a new chief. Exciting things to come.
okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Organizational announcements. Announcements may be event related only and maybe 2 minutes in length. Is there anyone
Did
that
you
wishes
have
to
something?
Is there anyone virtually that wants to talk about an event?
Raise your virtual hand. There's no one.
Public comment on agenda items. Visitors are accorded a 4-minute opportunity to address the board on any resolutions on the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to do that? Virtually or in the audience? Okay, moving on, visitor recognition. Visitors are allowed a 1 3-minute opportunity to address the board on issues not relating to the agenda, but in relevance to the common good of the village. So anybody virtually? Thank you. Moving on, village board resolutions. Approval of minutes, February 7th, 2024. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the minutes of February 7th, 2024, regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
we'll move.
Second. Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the minutes of February 20th, 2024, special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. Any comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the minutes of the February 21st regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion? And who was there? Are they all there? Okay,
Yeah, we were all.
okay, great.
Seconds? Second. Sue?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the minutes of the February 28th special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
No comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approval of voucher detail report. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated March 6th, 2024 in the amount of $392,492.88. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait,
Oh, you have a comment?
no, I was actually,
Oh,
I wanted to ask Dell.
Oh,
Usually it's around this time, it's not as low for a budget, for the voucher itself.
Hmm.
So can you enlighten me the reason why usually it's a little bit higher than what we have right now?
Good evening, Trustee Casada. I think a lot of it right now is just timing, especially with, capital items are now in, flux. So we finished paying for 2023 expenses, and with the weather not up to par yet, to start, we don't have any, concrete 2024 expenses other than, if we're doing something that's a study or something of that nature. We do have our Medicare first quarter on for this voucher detail report, along with the first half refunds for the SCARs, which hopefully will be approved later on in the meeting, along with the correction of the exemptions. So I think it's really just a timing
Okay, no problem. Fair enough.
change.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dale. Thanks.
okay. All in favor?
aye.
Authorizing the village manager to sign a proposal relating to Spring Street sidewalk improvements. Resolved that upon review of Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign an agreement with AI Engineers, Inc., PC, Dolph Rodolph, Rodfeld Engineering Division, 570 Texter Road, Suite 300, Elmsford, New York, 10523, to provide professional engineering services for drainage design, bidding assistance, and construction administration to support the connection with the planned Spring Street Sidewalk Improvement Project, and be further resolved that the services will be provided in detail in the January 2nd, 2024 proposal letter. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Paul.
Changes to the 2024 fee schedule. Resolved that the Village of Ossining fee schedule is revised to include the following fees effective January 1st, 2024. Parking overtime meter parking, if paid within 7 days, $20. Overtime meter parking, if not paid within 7 days of issuance, $40. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. Any comments? I'll just make one. We learned, I guess some of us who have gotten tickets didn't realize that we've actually had this $20 thing. It's on the ticket, right? And we're just codifying it now. I wish there was a way to bring it up to the top where people would see it right away, because it's a, nice.
I went back and looked at the ticket I got and it's on there.
Oh, I know. I get
I just didn't read it.
Yeah, but it's down the bottom. Maybe whoever is in charge of this can figure out a way to put it more on top, because I think it's a big difference for some people. 20, a lot of people would pay it within the first 7 days. So just a word there. And I think we're ready to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Authorizing request for proposals for special counsel for land use matters. Resolved that the village manager is authorized to issue a request for proposal for special counsel for land use matters. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. So this would be for an RFP we try to do every 3 years, and this is for the land use attorneys, right?
Right.
I think a few years ago, we instituted an ongoing every 3-year RFP for everything in the village, from police issues to fire to attorneys to whatever. Anytime we have to outsource, bring in specials, consultants, whatever, over a certain amount, obviously. 3 years seems like the right amount. So just reiterating for folks, I think it's just really good practice.
All in favor?
Aye.
Authorizing the village manager to issue a request for proposal. Resolved that upon review of Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to issue a request for proposal for design services associated with the community center DRI project. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. Comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Authorizing issuance of requests for proposals for third-party administrative services for the village's workman's compensation program. Resolved that the village manager is authorized to issue a request for proposals for the third-party administration services for the village's workers' compensation plan. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Authorization for small claim assessment review payments for the 2023 assessment year. Whereas certain small claim assessment review SCARs proceedings were commenced in the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Westchester against the town of Austin by the following property owners for the 2023 assessment year. And all of those listings are posted on the board of the clerk's office and also on the webpage. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby upon certification of the village treasurer of all the aforesaid taxes have been paid, hereby authorizes and directs the village treasurer to make such refunds of real estate property taxes to the petitioners listed above. Do I have a motion?
So move. Need a second?
Second.
Second.
Dana White. Mark Richards. All in favor?
Aye.
Authorizing correction exemption refunds. Whereas the village treasurer and the corporation county were notified by the town assessor of the following 6 homeowners in the village of Austin were entitled to refunds on real property taxes paid as a result of a clerical error, specifically that of an incorrect percentage for a disability exemption was applied. The people are all listed here. And is posted on the bulletin board at the clerk's office and on the webpage. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby authorizes and directs the village treasurer to make such refunds of real property taxes to the property owners scheduled in Schedule A below. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Authorizing the village to purchase builder's risk insurance for the construction of the new Indian Brook water treatment plant. Whereas the contract documents for the construction of the new Indian Brook water treatment plant require the village as a property owner to purchase and maintain builder's risk insurance upon the work, and therefore be it resolved that the village manager is authorized to sign documents necessary for the village to obtain builder's risk insurance from Chubb in accordance with the quote received by the village's insurance broker. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. Questions, comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution declaring certain village vehicles as surplus. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby declares the following vehicles, as surplus equipment and authorizes their disposal in accordance to New York State law by sale or otherwise as is pursuant with the village's agreement with Auctions International, Inc. And again, the listing is on the webpage or on the clerk's bulletin board. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. Sue?
Okay, hold on.
We had this conversation about all these items last week for those that are interested. Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fire Department
Yes. Oh, sorry.
was that yes, Mr.?
That was a yes.
Okay. Fire Department appointment. Resolved that upon recommendation of the fire chief, Junior Infante, Austin, New York, was elected as an active member of the Monitor Hose Company number 4 for interior firefighting. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Sue?
Okay, hold on one second. All
Sorry.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fire Department appointment, Austin Hose, number 1. Resolved that upon recommendation of the fire chief, Jamie Pugo, Austin, New York, was elected to an active members of the Austin Fire Hose for interior firefighting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fire Department appointment, resolved that upon recommendation of the fire chief, Hugh Carlton, Austin, New York, was elected as an active member of the Austin Hose Company number 1 for interior firefighting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Questions, comments?
All in
Sue?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Call for a public hearing, proposed law 2024 entitled a local law amending Chapter 122 excavations, Chapter 233 subdivision of land, and Chapter 270 zoning in the Village of Austin Code. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 PM on March 20th, 2024 in the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Austin, New York, to consider proposed local law 2024 entitled the Local Law Amending Chapter 122 Excavations, Chapter 233 Subdivision of Land, and Chapter 270 Zoning of the Village of Austin Code, and be it further resolved that members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the above referenced location, and be it further resolved that members of the public requiring a reasonable accommodation to participate in the public hearing due to the person's disability shall notify Corporation Council no later than 7 days before the public hearing, kahan@villageofaustin.org, to afford the public sufficient times to provide reasonable accommodations, and be it further resolved that these members of the public wanted to attend and participate remotely, access will be available through the Zoom platform. And be further resolved that any comments could be regarding the proposed law could be accepted from the Board of Trustees at bot@villageofaustin.org. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. Comments, questions? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Finance. Finance establishment of a DPW 3500 Mason dump capital project from 2023 financing sources. Whereas the village management wishes to establish a capital project for 3500 Mason dumps, which were part of the village's 2024 capital plan, and designate the finance to be accumulated in available surplus from fund balance as of December 31st, 2023. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the adopted budget for the general fund be modified in 2023 to appropriate unexpended appropriations and accumulated and available fund balance for the 2024 capital plan, aggravating $181,080.40, and that the capital project and the capital project budget be established as follows. Again, that is on the clerk's bulletin board, and it's also on the webpage. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. Comments, questions? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Referral for proposed zoning text amendments to the planning board. Whereas the Board of Trustees is considering amendments to Table 1C parking requirements in the PC, NC-1, NC-2, GB, CDD, and O-R and IR districts. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant with the section of 270-59 of the Village of Austin Code, the Board of Trustees refers to the proposing zoning text amendments to the planning board, and be it further resolved that the planning board shall issue its report of the proposed text amendments to the zoning board within 62 days of this referral. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. Any comments, questions? All the material, just as a reminder, in the work sessions the week before, all of this is discussed. It's open to the public to view, be present. There's not a lot of conversation. It's really the staff and the board, but it's open. So a lot of these things were discussed, almost all, last week. It's on video on the website.
Right.
Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Continuing business of the board, agreement with Cablevision Light Path LLC, resolved that following the review of Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign the service order for Cablevision Light Path LLC 1111 Stewart Avenue, Bethpage, New York 11714 for the installation and servicing of the new fiber network into the Austin Police Headquarters to integrate the Austin Police Department with the Metropolitan Transportation Authority Police Department and the Metropolitan Regional Radio System, and be it further resolved that the term of the service order will be 60 months. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. Okay, so we had questions last week. Chief, to be. I don't know what your title actually is. Honestly, I guess it's. Do you know anything about this topic?
Yeah, I was briefed on it.
Okay, can you enlighten us? Because
were we not all confused as to what this is about, why we're doing this, how it works, why we're paying for 2 locations or 1 location that's not in Ossining, et cetera, et cetera. And we could also table this if we have to, so.
Well, I can give you hopefully answers to the questions
Great.
that you're looking for. If not, then I guess I'll come back to you with the answers that.
I think the microphone needs to be a little closer
Hmm.
to him. I'm not sure.
Is that better?
I think so, yeah.
First time.
You can use that today, but I'm thinking by 2 weeks from now, we're not letting you say that, but it's
Excuses
okay.
anyway.
We might give you 60 days. We
Um,
might be generous. Go ahead.
The it's a new fiber cable that will run directly from the output to, the PD. It's a dedicated fiber line that's solely to be used for the radio system. So what that means is that it's exclusive use only to the police department. It's not shared bandwidth with anybody else that would, either any other public provider or a customer or anything like that. There'll be no outages for it. So if it's on a regular fiber line, if tree falls or, something goes out somewhere, it's a dedicated line that only is to be used for the PD purposes for the radio system. And it's secure in that matter where it's not public line to be used, that it's only for the PD use, can't be hacked. So it's really speed, some stability, and the safety of it, which is important because if it goes down, we have no radio. So this would prevent that from using an existing line somewhere else where if we were to lose it, we lose that line, we lose our radio communications. So with this, we will not lose radio communications. No one can hack into it. And it's also dedicated just for us. So if there was some kind of an emergency or where the line were bombarded with signal, or it would be slowed down or cut off us.
I mean, I have questions. Do other people have questions?
What is the relationship to the MTA police department
They're the
radio
ones
system?
supplying the radios and the radio system. We're joining the MTA radio system.
Does that change anything in regards to anything? I mean, does that mean you have better communication with the MTA, or is that?
No, it means we have better communication with our police officers right now as part of our project to redo the radio system.
Are they doing this with anybody else? Any other police departments? No?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the follow-up would be, like, how many? All the police departments, some of them, a third of them?
I don't
One of
know a
them?
number offhand of how many departments in Westchester County are on this system. I know Bronxville's on it, Yorktown's on it. There are some other agencies either in the same process that we are in and transitioning to this, and it's a more affordable option with joining onto an established system that's already been created versus putting up new towers and sites that are just pretty much dedicated for us, which would be, extremely more expensive.
So was it the state that got this idea to do this, or who's, where this comes
I'm
from?
not entirely sure where the idea originated from, but we've got all the equipment and the radios are here to be programmed. The funding for this was already included in the initial proposal of that capital project.
But we're being asked to add funding. That's why we're here.
The way it was explained to me that I don't know what happened in the communication with that, but the original proposal encompassed the cost of this for the initial output, and any funding after that would be added to a yearly budget, a reoccurring budget item.
So I still have questions, but let me go down the line.
Thank you, Chief. My question is going to be a little bit more towards Dell, also budget. Dell, when we did the approval for the radios last time in a capital project, was there any mention in regards to additional funding that there was going to be? Sometimes those conversations happen prior to budget coming in front of us. Was that any mention to you? Any recollection of that? I'm not looking at the budget numbers right now, but what was the budget for the radios that we approved?
I'll look up where we are with that capital project. But within their operating budget, there are two separate detail lines, which I believe added up to about 15,000 that referenced the radios and the MTA. So I would like to confer with Chief Zimmerman, at some point on the 2024 budget. I'm not sure if he's familiar with it. And to make sure that those two lines of expenses in the detail are for this actual operating costs for this radio change. Because this, will be ongoing, obviously, every year, and will become, part of the operating
yeah.
budget.
Right.
But if it was budgeted within that capital project as well, which is what I'm actually trying to go look up to see where we are. But the system is now doing its backup, so will not let me in. I can see where we are because we did do the purchase orders for the equipment piece, which was actually under New York State contract prices. And then there was another vendor for another piece of it that was under Sourcewell contract.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Dale. So now I'm going to go back. And maybe if you don't have the answers, obviously, I would love to hear that later on as well. So is the MTA and other municipalities, is it funding any of this equipment or any of this additional stuff that we needed to do at this point? No, are you aware of that maybe?
I know they're providing the actual towers where this is running off of. The equipment with any radio purchases, we have to buy the radios, we have to buy the car radios, the portable radios, the consoles for the desk, as we would with any retrofit of any radio system. I know that a lot of the upstart for a lot of that, where if we were to redo our own radio system here locally from scratch, that it would be really more expensive. Some of the details of that, I wasn't involved in the beginning stages of this project, so I don't have probably all the answers you're looking for. I can find them out, but I know as far as this one item is concerned that it is something that is required. Make all of it work, make it work well.
Is it time sensitive?
The service order doesn't indicate that. It's what the monthly charge is, and I do have a note here from Jacqueline O'Brien, but there's nothing to answer your question directly, Trustee. Nothing in here specifically that says got to be signed by a date.
So maybe, and so I would like to get a little more information, and I can look up our capital budget as well, Dale. If not, you can, if you have any additional stuff, we'll love to see that.
I actually was just able to get in. So at this point, there's a balance left in the capital project of $12,128.82.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Which does not cover this.
Not even half of the.
Not even close. Okay, so let us do this. So let me explain to you what happened, Chief. This came in front of us. We all had question marks all over our faces. Not a single person on this board was aware of this project as it was brought to us. Now, it may have been under a different name, could have been years ago, we don't know. The problem is it's hard to vote on behalf of the public and how money is used when it's the first time you're hearing about the project. Now, again, you may have been hearing about it under a different name, it's part of something else. The question isn't so much whether it's the right decision. The question is that we don't know what the heck this is. That's it. So what I would suggest is, unless there's times of, and I don't think our attorney was familiar, we certainly didn't budget correctly for it, because as you heard, there's 12,000 needs, I think 80, right? 80, 81.
It'll
that
come
wasn't
to-
budgeted
It's a
correctly.
total of 90 over 5
90.
years, so it's 18,000 a year.
Oh, so it's 18. Okay, I had the total rather than the annual, so we're off by, but still not done correctly, which is unusual for Dale not to get the number done correctly. So what I would suggest, you have
No, I just wanted, I just wanted to be sure that, so is it just this one item that the board has no knowledge of prior to tonight? Or the last time you guys met, or the scope of this whole project?
So I would say to you, in the work session, when this was brought to us as like to sign this, we all looked at it and said, anybody know what this is? Not a good look for us because we are always supposed to be informed about projects, long-term, short-term, emergencies, whatever. But and I'm sure it's a great project. I'm sure of it. That said, and we remember radios and all that, but this was the first time we heard Metro North, and what really was a red flag is why under any project would a village like Ossining have to subsidize something in Queens? Why is Metro North charging us for Queens? If they have something in Queens, I'm pretty sure they're using it for hundreds of things. Why are we being charged for that? So that's one question. If I may suggest here, I'm not asking, I know you don't know, like on your face. So here's what I would suggest. This is a great exercise because you should know what this is. We didn't expect you to come with answers, but I know this came up. We'd like to see the original documentation. Somewhere somebody applied for all of this. Somewhere somebody called it a project, got money for it, and said, here is the benefit of this. Somewhere somebody did that. Could have been 10 years ago, could have been 3 years ago. It exists. So if you could ask where that is, that's a starting point. We'd like to know why we're paying for anything for Metro North, not here, but in Queens, because we want to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. And 3, what is the benefit of it? I get the benefit that you believe or you assume that doing it through Metro North is cheaper than us building anything.
Well, it's through the MTA.
MTA, excuse me, not Metro, MTA, I get it. So why choose that? Not because we think it's a bad idea. It could be the best idea ever. We just don't know what that is, and we need to know. It's hard to vote in a vacuum, but we just need information.
Sure.
You would ask all the questions you do if somebody came to your house and said, I need $18,000 for your property that you have, and you're going to say, what am I paying for? All those questions, what, where, when, for how long? It sounds like into perpetuity. Obviously talk to Dale. Maybe it was under a different name. We just like to know. And it is always helpful on almost everything we do. And it's more professional to find out who's doing it and what their experience is. It's also helpful for us to know that all those radios we probably paid for are tied to this already. And somehow that got passed, but not budgeted. No blame, no finger pointing. And again, it's not hundreds of thousands of dollars of a difference here. It's shekels that we have to. So I would just answer those questions. And if there's not time is of the essence, it's more informative. It could be done through an email. Stuart, Dale can help you, and the board can be notified, said the project started here. This was the objective, but we ended up, the costs. We think it'll improve X, Y, and Z, and it's cheaper than us. And I'm sort of curious as when was the last time your radios went down that this project was deemed to be so important? Like, I get the idea of what it is. Sounds right. But you might want to say, look, we've had outages. We've had this. That's why we looked at 3 different options. This is why this is the best. And then we memorialize it, stick it on a document, and future boards who will have to vote on this will also, because it sounds like it's into perpetuity, actually. So
It would, after the 5 years, it would then roll each year automatic renewal.
there we go. And I'm sure there'll be increases. So we want to also see the original document that says, and after those 5 years, it's a 2% increase. It's a 20%. It's a this, it's a that. How do you get out of this deal? Like, how do we end this? How do we divorce? Not just how do we get married? I'm sure somewhere it's written. If it isn't, it's a good exercise in getting. I'm sure there are staff here, and I'm sure you have staff also that knowledgeable about this. So if you could just send us an email sometime tomorrow and say, I think I can get this to you in a meeting or 2 meetings. Unless somebody finds out there's a time issue, then I think we should just go that path. Am I getting yays on this one? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I'm sure Fritchie also. Are you going yes on that?
Okay.
Sound fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, not a question about the quality, although it's nice to know, informational.
Sure. No
That'll
problem.
be great.
So I have a motion to table this till the March 20th meeting.
Second.
That assumes you can have something to us by then.
I certainly hope so.
Okay, if you don't, you'll let us know.
Right.
Great. Yes, second, we have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, authorize agreement to this is new business of the board. Authorize agreement to East Coast Service Group, Inc. Resolved that following review of Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign the proposals with East Coast Service Group, Inc., 956 Washington Avenue, Peekskill, New York, 10566 for the following work: installation of 121 Category 6 cables in the municipal building pursuant with the September 25th, 2023 proposal, and wiring of the new office in the pool at the community center pursuant with the February 5th, 2024 estimate. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Oh, Dana.
Dana is apparently.
I'm apparently
These
the
two are,
seconder.
you guys are
He's
doing
the
a job
seconder
tonight.
tonight, baby.
You are.
We're there. Number
Okay.
2 all the way. We are
Okay.
number 2.
All right. Any questions or comments on this one?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
License agreement with Verizon New York. Whereas Verizon New York is the owner of 160 Main Street, and then it has the lot number. And whereas Verizon New York has applied for a permit from the building department for the removal of the existing generator and an installation of a new generator in the basement of 160 Main Street. And whereas to accomplish this work scheduled for March 14th and May 15th, Verizon New York's representative proposes to use a crane, not a chain, crane to be located in the adjacent village-owned property and the closing off of the municipal parking lot during the removal and installation approximately 4 hours on the 2 days and location of another vehicle to transport the generator to and from Verizon New York's building. And whereas Verizon New York has been advised that the license agreement with the village is needed for a temporary use of village-owned property, now therefore be resolved that the village manager is authorized to sign a license agreement with Verizon New York allowing a temporary use of Market Square for the removal and installation of a generator for Verizon's New York's building at 160 Main Street. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
In the comment section, I wrote an email. They're going to be blocking off municipal space. I believe that what I learned from Paul a number of years ago is that we are, and I think you responded to it, that we are allowed to charge them. That I'm trying to be helpful, but the businesses, et cetera, are going to say, hey, what is happening here? And they are a for-profit business, so I believe that they should be charged for space.
19 spaces.
Okay.
And we charge $10 per space.
When we're dealing with for event purposes, we do charge event organizers who are using municipal spaces $10 per space per day.
I don't mean to be a stickler, but there are also 6 permit spaces in that parking lot. It's actually 25.
Thank you, Stickler.
It's also not an event, okay? It is blocking off and we can set whatever price we want. I understand it's not an event. It's not on behalf of the businesses and community. They are business. They're a big business. They're a great business. Many of their customers live here. But honestly, taking up that much space, I think we're gonna have to find a better fee for that. Put it in some sort of fund. I don't know what. And when do they need an answer? It must be soon because
They'd
they
like
have
an
to
answer
start
actually to have the board decide it tonight because they
okay.
have to arrange for the crane. Crane was actually supposed to be here tomorrow. They put it off because we don't have the license agreement, but it's now on for the 14th of March.
Am I the only one that thinks this is something, or does anybody else? I don't want to be. If I'm the only one that thinks this is anything, fine.
I'm sorry, what was the fee for the parking spaces when there's an event, when someone uses it?
$10.
$10 per space.
For the
per
event?
day.
Right.
Oh, and there's how many spaces?
25.
Okay, so $2.50 an hour. Sounds good to me.
Not an hour a
No,
day.
$2.50 for the day.
No,
and
no,
it's
I'm
2
saying we
days, so
charge $2.50 an hour. It's a
For the
crane operation. All right,
Assume they're-
Happens once every 25 years. Like I say, they're a business. I have no problem with, so if they're there for 4 hours, it's $1,000. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Bob. I get the math. It's 2 days. You don't charge them. Any other thoughts? I mean, I don't want to spend all night on dollars and cents, but I think in principle, there has to be, they're shutting down the place with a huge crane. They have to.
So I have questions, I guess, maybe some concerns. Me is a little bit not too much on the parking, which I agree with that as well. But Stuart or Maddie, that you're in the building department now, do we have a permit for cranes on our village?
I can't say for sure if we have a permit for cranes, but I know that Joe and Paul have been going back and forth on this for about 2 weeks.
Okay,
So
so
everyone
it's-
who needs to be aware is aware of
So
what
pretty
needs
much
to be
this
done.
is, I treat it as a construction or as a constructional element of something.
There's a pending permit application.
Okay, so fantastic. So obviously all safety measures and everything else, and I'm assuming because of the crane and the equipment that are bringing over, are they going to be looking for police services at any point?
The license agreement provides that they will be in contact with the police for whatever services they need. Just to answer you, Trustee Quezada, we do have a rigging plan. We have a
Gotcha.
report from an engineer approving that rigging plan.
Got it. All right. And when they need police services, they usually pay for that, sure.
I don't know. I don't know the last time we did a rain job.
Well,
But-
I
but
think
usually,
that the
you know,
same
for
would be true
Con
for
Ed,
other utilities
Or
that
the
need to
utilities,
pay,
that's what I'm
yes.
saying. Yeah,
What we, Con Ed would.
yeah, that's what I'm
yeah,
saying. So
what
they
we
usually
would
pay
charge
for it.
Con Ed,
Yeah.
we would charge a.
So to me, it's like a little bit of a balance. Sure, they're already paying for a building permit. They possibly going to be paying for, police services. So not sure what the balance going to be. We charging for this, we charging plus this, or we charging just this? Because I'm sure, Maddie, do you happen to know, or Stuart, the building permit, the fee?
I do not know.
Not off the top of my head,
Okay.
no.
Can I jump, can I jump in here real quick?
Of course.
The building permit's totally separate from that crane. The building permits, that permit is for them to replace the generator. And all wiring aspects or whatever, right? I mean, that's what the permit would be. Would have
I'm
nothing
not
to do
sure.
with rigging it.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but they do have a plan. So that's what I'm saying, because right now we don't have, the village does not have an application for cranes. Or permit to apply for a crane.
Correct. And we're gonna have projects coming up. There's gonna be cranes on them.
Correct.
Or other items, right?
Correct.
So I'd rather do a generic than sit around and say it's cranes, but you don't have cranes because it's this big and that small and all of that.
Oh, I mean,
Okay.
how much work is it for us to establish a crane permit? All right, this one might slip on under the door on us because it's hitting us, but it's waking us up to what we have coming up in the future. There's guidelines and stuff for these cranes and inspections and inspectors and a rigging plan. There's a lot more to it than just pulling up and picking something up and putting it on a roof. So I don't know what it entails for us to create a crane or rigging permit. But I think that's something we should look into because of the fact of the future work we have coming. Parking garage, crane. Building it on a DPW, crane. It's checks and balances.
Yeah, and they're gonna have staging for a lot of this stuff, which is, to Bob's point. So, an event is $10. For me, there has to be some sort of a fee because I think the public has a right to say you're taking up space, So we can spend many hours on this and we have a right to set up a fee, whether it's listed, not listed, we have to get back to them, right? So, Bob's like 2,500 a day. They're gonna be here for 2 days. 4 hours is really a day. We're
What
not
is,
gonna time
I'm
it.
sorry, what is the movie permit? Like when a movie, how much do they charge? How much do we charge that for?
I can't think of the fees right off the top of my head, but it's
1,400.
usually
1,400 a day?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot. Yeah, I was just gonna say.
okay. So it has to be more than these events, which is really an accommodation, not to make it, I mean, we try to keep those as low as possible. You know, to me, my head, I mean, the movie's what, 1,400 at a day? I mean, I'm
It's
sorry?
probably more analogous to what they're actually
I
doing.
think so. So,
Just to get an
Yeah,
idea,
I
for
think
me, it was
that
just to get
the-
an
that's
idea. of
fine.
what
I think
it
it's fine.
is. Yeah.
okay. So I'm gonna go with the movie piece, which is 1,400 per day. It doesn't matter to me. It's 4 hours, 2 hours. I would put a limit on the hours because I don't want them leaving it, overnight if something happens. The day includes, we would have to tell them what a day is. Maddie, if sorry. Oh, no, it's fine. I didn't want to interrupt. I think we're gonna use that and we're gonna go with their 4 or 5, give them 5 hours. I don't want to say per day because they'll say, well, we have to leave it overnight. So then we'll have to decide what does that look like. So let's do a 5-hour day.
We need to know specific times. We need to tell the businesses in advance, well, as far in advance and be able to give them the exact specific times. Is
No,
going to
I'm
be
talking
most
about
helpful.
that they can't be there more than 5 hours. They said they're gonna be there 4. So
Right.
we're gonna give them a fee.
Yeah.
No more than 5 hours, since they said they need 4, give them a little leeway or make it 6 and let the businesses know that this is what they said. This is what they told us it would take, and that's for 2 days. So I would go, is everybody okay with 1,400?
Yeah, what I said was 250 an hour.
No, I know what you said.
Yeah, you said 2,500. I didn't say 2,500. So if they're there 4 hours, it's $1,000. If they're there
Oh,
5
okay.
hours, it's 1,250. Whatever.
I
I'm
did the
fine with-
math wrong.
No, listen, I'm
Yeah.
fine. Whatever you want to do, I'm fine.
All right, I like the movie analogy. I would go because
Fine.
it's nice to have. Is everybody okay with that?
I'm good.
That's fine.
1,400? Okay. So you've got your number. It's up to, but no more than 5 hours because they needed 4. The businesses could be told that we were told it's 4 hours. That extra hours for them, just in case, I don't know, got
Rain
stuck in
gets
the
there
rain.
late.
Who the heck knows? I never know.
Is it 1,400 total or 1,400
Per day.
Per day.
But I think it obviously that police services are required. That will be whatever Con Ed pays for our police department. Have to do the same.
Oh, good point. We forgot the police. Okay. Everybody got that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I feel really good about that. And what I feel good about is, I'm looking at you, Maddie, on this, and also Chief, is Bob and Manny are right. In about a year or 6 months or whatever, I hope, we're gonna have lots of this. So let's not sit in this room the day before deciding, let's look at utility vehicles, which includes, and make it a big group. Trucks, vans, 16-wheelers, like food trucks, I don't know, whatever it is included in construction. So we're not sitting here, well, you said it's this size crane, but not that size. I don't want to be in these conversations. Figure out a way. I'm sure cities have this. I mean, White Plains and New Rochelle have been building for a decade. They've got to have something that we can look at. And let's put that in so we're not rushing at the last minute.
We'll
Thank you.
certainly give it some thought.
Yeah, that'll be great. I appreciate it.
I think
Okay.
I think it's needed, Maddie. Bob fairly said it's correct on this one, but a lot of the construction is going to require that. Actually, where I work, that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
That's what my superiors are doing right now. Crane
Introducing a
operator.
crane permit? Is that what? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it's not just the permit, it's the guideline.
Oh, sure.
Safety is the requirement process. It's all that stuff that comes with it. So, and then it
But-
has to go in front of the board, in this case, this board, because it becomes part of your zoning. Becomes part of the criteria. What they're doing over there is like they're going in front of the town board as a resolution for all this stuff to apply. It's not just an application.
All right, you'll do some
Comfort.
research.
Yeah.
Small towns, big, what we usually do, the cities, the villages, the towns, see what you come up with.
Yep. We'll shake a few trees.
And you're not, doesn't have to be done in 24 hours. You've got time to do it, but let's just get it done. This is great. Okay, what else we got? What's happening on this side?
Okay, all in favor?
So,
Aye.
I'm sorry, it's in favor with these,
amendments.
with these additions
Well,
of
that would
the
be part of the
fees, no?
agreement. Sure, that would be.
Oh, that's how you're gonna do it. Okay, fabulous.
Okay,
Okay.
that was what we were discussing.
Oh, that's what you guys were discussing. Like in stereo here today.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Super.
Do I have a motion to adjourn into executive session for the advice of counsel?
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bob, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We're gonna go in executive. Just a reminder that next week, we are actually here in the courtroom. 7:30, we're gonna start with the swearing in, and then we're gonna go into our session. Very much appreciate everybody's time. It is, where am I? 9:39, adjourned. Okay.